Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And just been informed by my colleagues from Zed Pods that there's even somebody joining us from Australia. So that's a first for us. So this is a joint webinar between ourselves, Southwest Procurement Alliance, and Zed Pods, who are one of the suppliers on our framework, our Offsite Construction New Homes framework. So it's the fourth one we've done. So we're sort of quite practiced at it, but just a warning, I've had a message flagged up that my internet connection is unstable. So if I suddenly disappear, my colleague Penny will be able to take over immediately our little section. So we're going to do a little intro section, few slides at the beginning, and then hand over to Rehan from Zed Pods to take you through their product and what they're doing at the moment. Just some housekeeping, there will be a Q&A session, so do put your Q&A questions in the Q&A box at the bottom, and if you want to do a chat, do a chat too. We're not anticipating doing any polls, but yes, do type any questions you have, and we look forward to having a discussion, a lively discussion at the end with you. So, Southwest Procurement Alliance, who are we and what do we do? So our vision is through improved procurement to deliver better homes that enhance local communities. We are the regional brand of the London Housing Consortium, and we launched in October 2019. And actually today is our first anniversary of the launch. We were going to have a big celebration face-to-face, but obviously circumstances are not allowing that. The LHC group has a long history, started in 1966 by 6 local authorities to provide combined solutions to delivering increased productivity and actually modern industrialized methods, funnily enough. So last year our frameworks were used for delivering about 350 million worth of projects, number of projects 720, and the number of clients that we delivered those projects for was 279. I think it's quite interesting that the numbers of projects and the number of clients, we do actually, clients stay with us in many cases, and we deliver a lot of projects for them. So that's something that's good. As I say, we are actually part of the London Borough of Hillingdon, so we're a not-for-profit.gov organisation, and we do through our surplus deliver community benefit. In the Southwest, we have a particular community benefit fund, and anybody who has a project through us gets access to £1,000 grant for a nominated charity. And we've delivered some really exciting and interesting things to small charities. It really makes a difference. St Paul's Adventure Playground in Bristol, we've provided funding for a summer play worker. The middle picture shows a playground for autistic children, and the top left one is a Blandford Easy Read scheme where we improve the literacy of people within the Blandford area. So the particular framework that we are using to deliver the Zed Pods projects and other offsite modular frameworks is the offsite construction of new homes. And on that framework, we have 13 different suppliers in various different work streams. The work streams are there, and they align to the MHCLG categories. So we have work stream 1, which is volumetric category 1, and then panelised systems category 2. And then we have a high-rise option and the low-rise turnkey option. This framework's been in existence since the 1st of May 2019 and is proving very popular with clients, as we have, as I say, quite a wide range and diverse range of suppliers on that framework. Really interesting. I've just been reading the report just brought out by Mark Farmer and Mike Daff, and they talk about you know, how there are a lot of modular suppliers around, but they're only working at sort of 40 to 45% capacity. And I think this is something that we, as a provider of procurement solutions, which is often a blockage for clients, we see that we can help in that delivery, both from the client side and the supplier side. And there are the MCHLG categories, just to outline that. We also know that for some people, providing the having the expertise and the people to assist them, the consultants to assist them in delivering offsite projects is a bit of a challenge. And so we do have a framework called our Offsite Project Integrator, where we have a range of consultants who can help people right from initiation stage right up to handover and closeout management. So if you're interested, have a look on our website. It's all there about it. So a bit more about what we as SWIPA are doing. We have 3 themes we're focusing on at the moment. Obviously, offsite construction of new homes is one of them, but we are very focused on environmental sustainability. We're launching a new energy efficiency measures framework in November. We've been analysing our own carbon footprint, which is very interesting. I've got a slide on that in a minute. And of course, you know, looking at zero carbon homes and how that meets and exceeding the future home standard for our clients. So one of the things we've done in lockdown, this is just a bit of information, is we analysed our use of how much our car use and the savings on emissions. So from the period of, we analysed from the period of February to August 2019, as opposed to February to August 2020, and you can see a massive drop in carbon emissions just from our day-to-day activities that we can record through our mileage, 16,000 kilograms less. The number of trees it would take to replace those, you know, 282 trees to 40.39. And we're really looking at how we deliver our operations, you know, and taking into account our carbon footprint going forward. So hopefully a lot more online systems, meetings where necessary. We're also looking at the UK Green Building Council definition framework and working very closely and analysing that. And a lot of our clients are also very interested in net carbon emissions. So that's something we're focusing on. The other thing we're doing is, and this has also come out of the whole lockdown situation, is looking at social value in procurement. It's obviously been very important to us, you know, generating social value through the projects delivered through our framework. And we're going to be doing a webinar with the Social Value Portal and Plymouth City Council for our suppliers on the 29th of October. So really to get them up to speed, talk to them about it. A lot of them, and social value has been around for a long time, but it's about making it a meaningful contribution, and it is something that's very important to our clients. So yes, I've just been reading the Build Homes, Build Jobs, Build Innovation report, and it talks about the blockages, and there's nothing new to us as delivery people who are trying to enable the delivery both from the clients and the suppliers side. And really, you know, that's one of our key focuses. That's what we want to do to unlock any blockages that clients have. So that's me. We are supporting the Bristol Housing Festival. We're sponsoring it, and we've got a conversation session coming up. So do have a look at the Bristol Housing Festival Virtual Expo and what they're doing in becoming promoters and disruptors of the traditional housing market. So that's me. Get in touch, look at our website, and I'll now hand over to Rehan, who's going to take you through the Zed Pods presentation. Thank you. Stop share. Right, and I lasted, and I shall turn off my video.
Okay, hopefully you can all see the screen of the presentation. Good morning, thank you, Mary, for handing over. And it's a great privilege to be able to talk through some of the projects that we're doing and how we've been focused on delivering zero carbon, but more importantly, zero carbon affordable and modular projects, especially in the Southwest, working with NHC and working with SWIPA to deliver these schemes. Dr. Rehan Kodabakis, I come from a sustainability and environmental design background. And Zed Pods have been established since 2016, delivering projects and working in ways to help bring forward both modular and zero carbon homes. So we've got quite an established board with a lot of experience and knowledge in there, whether it be from the design and the architectural side of it, or the business development side of it on the social housing. We also have quite good experience from finance and technical side, and we have Paul, who sits on our board, who's also the board director, who's also on the board to our manufacturing partners. So I think it's quite good to sort of look back and talk about our journey and how we've come and arrived at modular being the solution and being our route to market, and why we think modular is so good and so passionate about ensuring modular becomes the almost the default for delivering houses in the modern era. So mainly focused from looking at an environmental design background and how we were delivering zero carbon homes in the past. I was involved in a lot of sort of large self-build individual properties, which are great, and they are doing their part. They're not making the big impacts on, especially in areas that have declared the climate emergency, on reducing the net carbon emissions, because they don't have the volume or the penetration into the market. And also a lot of the benefits that you get from zero carbon living and zero carbon homes are a reduction in energy bills and living costs and living expenses when they're done right. So the people that really should be benefiting are the people at the other end of the spectrum that can't afford and have to make those decisions between heating their houses and feeding themselves or their families. And they're the ones that should really be benefiting from the net to low zero energy costs that we can get when delivering these types of homes. And then the third part was looking how to install the build quality and make sure that things like the air tightness detailing and where zero carbon designs have fallen down in the past, how do we improve that and get those through and get that quality installed in the design system? When you do something on site, you're quite often using subcontractors. If you're installing a window or doing an air tightness detail around a window at 3 stories up on a scaffold in a breezy mid-October day, then it quite often doesn't get done correct, and that's where some sort of things get done and fall down. But when we do it in a factory and when we do it under controlled conditions, we have that continuity of labour. So once you teach someone to do it, they're working on building 1 as in building 100, and you get that increase in skill, which you then retain within the company and retain within the process. We also find that we're doing stuff in a controlled environment, everything's done at low level, and we have the sort of photographic passporting of a building, which shows that we can inspect anything that was done in any of the buildings and come back and ensure everything that was done correctly at the beginning. And partly in our design development between sort of 2016 when we established and 2018, working with BRE, working with building control and local building control officers, working with independent building control companies, working with fire safety officers, and making sure that we took all of those on board. So when you're doing something at the innovative side and the bleeding edge of development, that we had everything in place from the accreditation, from the warranty, from the finances point of view, that we'd looked and incorporated all these different things so that when we were ready to release the market, we already had the answers to those questions to help with the transition into the market. And that's led to quite a few current projects. So the main project that we'll be talking about a little bit later is what we're doing with the 100% social housing project in Chalks Road in Bristol, which is currently under construction. It's already a multi-award winning project that we're working with Bristol Council, Bristol Housing Festival and the YMCA to be able to deliver such a high quality, high spec net zero carbon development within using different land methods and a different way of building. We've also delivered a scheme which was nominated for award and shortlisted for an NHS Foundation Trust, which was doing a low carbon key worker accommodation scheme, which we completed in 12 weeks as part of, whilst during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it really shows that the other benefits of modular, that we can keep going when other building sites are perhaps facing trouble, and that we can deliver a scheme very, very quickly with a little knock-on benefits, and I'll come on to that a little bit later. And that led to a scheme which is very similar to what we're doing in Bristol, but it's a slightly larger scheme that we're doing with the London Borough of Bromley, that's currently under contract, and that we have developed that to also work with the Wildlife Trust, specifically Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust and Natural England, to deliver a scheme that's been approved by the EA to build using our same build methodology, but in a flood zone 3. So combined with some of the other aspects in terms of what we do, how we design and make the connections and the evacuation policy, we can actually build using our standard building system in a flood zone 3, which is very, very good. And then we've got private schemes going through planning at the moment, which is a private scheme with Croydon for a number of apartments. And we're doing some rooftop development as well, which we've just agreed to terms on the project. So it's going to be very exciting to show how we can do a lightweight modular construction to extend an existing building, and how that works with the new permitted development rights as well. That will be an interesting journey. Other things that we do is sort of on the smaller side, like adaptive care pods and adaptive units that can help address some of the issues that we're facing within the care industry, and help protect some of the more vulnerable, and look at different care options to protect them particularly within the COVID-19, post-COVID-19 environment. But really sort of the focus of what we're doing and what we're talking through today is why modular, and why modular for social housing, and why, when we decided that, what were the key issues that we faced and how we looked at overcoming those. So Zed Pods, my colleague Devansu, chaired a roundtable conference meeting which was organised by CIH, and was particularly focused on MMC-led design developments, and included a number of senior housing professionals from various local authorities, which was nationwide. And it sort of focused on a number of different areas, such as education and awareness gaps, and how do we address those and show the different types of modular building and different applications of modular building to make sure that what we're doing is fit for purpose. How we look at different methods of engagement to engage with people across the local authority or the housing association, from procurement, from legal, and also in the pre-planning side of it, how we get local stakeholders, political stakeholders, and everybody else on board with what we're doing and understanding the roots of modular. And then focusing on sustainability. We come from a sustainable design background, and that's our focus and our ethos. And using modular to really anchor that into the design, so that we're hitting, when the clients are demanding more sustainable buildings, we're actually showing that we're doing that via modular, and it's not an add-on, it's part of our core philosophy. And then we looked at the procurement issues and part of our work with LHC and with Swapper, and how we've used that to develop the projects that I've been talking about, and then how we've just really instilled the quality and what we do and how you get quality build throughout the marketplace, to show that we're not doing temporary buildings, we're doing permanent buildings at a higher quality that's currently being turned out through a lot of traditional built schemes. So in terms of education and awareness, I think part of what we found was that communicating the different types of modular buildings that are available and the different types of purposes for those buildings is quite important. Things like, you have porta cabins doing classrooms and doing temporary buildings, and that can sometimes be a perception of what modular is, and people don't really, within those authorities or within those areas, have an understanding that we're doing permanent buildings that are, we've gone through a number of different hoops and hurdles and accreditations to make sure that we do pass muster on all of those accreditation sides, and that what we're doing is different to that, and that is part of the market. But what we're doing is permanent homes, and it's designed for manufacture, which is different again to what was done in the late 50s and 60s in terms of prefab, and trying to move people along from that thinking, so that this is precision manufactured homes done in a controlled environment that brings forward all those quality issues that we can do. And then looking at the longevity and really communicating that, yes, these have got the BOPAS assurance that says for both our build schemes that we're doing in terms of lightweight steel and cross-laminated timber, that they are permanent buildings, that they have that minimum 60-year and a design life of 100 years. And really trying to convince people and establish the fact that modular building is not an alternative, it's an evolution of traditional builds. It's what we need at the moment to meet with the housing crisis, to meet with the social housing crisis, to deliver homes quickly in terms of delivering solutions for the homeless housing crisis. And that it's, and as I said, it's an improvement on traditional build, an evolution on traditional build that is fit for purpose, ready to come into the market and show things like, how do we improve on time? How do we deliver projects quicker and show those funding benefits by delivering schemes like we did for the key worker scheme in 12 weeks? How do we communicate those program benefits so that we can show where it fits in and what it fits into the actual housing stock and supplements all the additional activities that's going on? And then how do we look and communicate the different procurement options and different ways to engage with modular providers, and how the fact that we've gone through different warranty providers in terms of QAssure, in terms of Checkmate, to make sure that we have warranty provider and sign off, and that's applicable and acceptable by the finance teams as well. And a lot of this stemmed from the work that we did with the BRE, such as ensuring fire safety and making sure that everything we include has an A rating in terms of fire, ensuring that before the times of BOPAS, when we were originally doing this, that we had the durability assessments and relied on, had all the BBA and the agreement agreements to show that the materials we're using were fit for purpose and that were good for doing something slightly different and slightly innovative. And that we had building regs on board at the very beginning, both local authority and independent building regs, to show that we were compliant with things like NDSS standards and that everything we were doing was acceptable from a building regs point of view, and that we'd taken the wind loads, the impact assessments, where we're doing things above a car park or bringing a market failure site as a hard standing back into use, that we'd done all the air quality assessments, all the noise assessments to show that there was no intrusion into the habitable rooms or undue intrusion, that the materials and triple glazing we use kept those unwanted noises out. And everything that we've done was acceptable and applicable via the warranty providers and via the finance teams. And where I think we've excelled and what we've done very well is looking at converting and taking those benefits of design from manufacturer and combining them with the use of BIM and other electronic design techniques to show that we can provide a real high quality pre-engagement service and feasibility workshop and study. And where we're working with a lot of our local authority clients, it's identified windfall sites for things like homelessness accommodation. It's identified sites within their portfolio they didn't think they could put housing on, but we can now bring into the back onto the market to use for housing development. How we work with the site constraints to decide what we can do, how we work with flood risk assessments, how we work with the existing buildings, how we do with essentially backland development, how we identify different massing options and layouts and adjust the accommodation mix to be suitable for what the client wants, and sort of really develop that cohesive outline scheme to communicate, one, all the benefits of modular, all the benefits of doing a zero carbon design and low carbon design within the design development, but doing it really, really early on. So we have that workshop mentality that brings in everybody on board so that we can then deliver a scheme and everyone has full awareness of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And then sort of moving on to the more of the engagement barriers, and these are sort of a lot of the pre-planning, pre-engagement barriers. And it's when you're doing something different or something new, it's how do you engage those stakeholders? And how do you get them involved as early as possible? And it's across not just the stakeholders in terms of clients and planners and local residents, but it also within the clients, different departments such as legal and procurement and finance, so that they understand the intricacies of delivering and doing a modular scheme. And we've sort of looked at very different ways to engage. We did a lot of exhibition work, especially bringing our fully designed functioning modular housing unit to different exhibitions, starting with the Bristol Housing Festival, and with EcoBuild and Future Build and places like that. And we found that a very, very good key and good tool to use because it helped distinguish ourselves from what the market might have been thinking back in the early days of what modular could be, and differentiating ourselves from that prefab and that temporary building and showing that what we're doing was a permanent building, just done a lot quicker, manufactured in a controlled environment to a high quality. And it really sort of helped demonstrate the speed of the build and construction, because one, if you can do something that's in an exhibition, you know you've only got a few days to do it. But what we were finding was that when we worked with some of the local councils, we were waiting for the council to close on a Thursday evening, everyone to leave. We brought the demo unit down on the Thursday evening, got everything ready and connected to the temporary power supply, so that when everyone turned up in the morning, all of a sudden on the Friday morning, all of a sudden there was a house there. And when they were looking, then got to do sort of the official tour and walk through the building and engage with all the local people in there and the local planners and the different people from across the local councils. They really got that impression that actually this is a way to do high quality, low carbon homes very, very quickly that can help solve the housing crisis we're finding ourselves in, which then sort of grew more in pertinence as we went through with the COVID-19 and as 2020 has developed in its rather interesting and different way. And it also then helps shape the understanding and helps us guide the early thinking process. So people can understand, because there are a few things like quirks within the JCT of how modular building works and how we do things and cash flow and deliver a project within local authority, within the JCT, and explain those sort of changes and amendments to the standard JCPT contracts so that everybody is on board. And if we do that very, very early on, then it avoids surprises 6 months, 7 months down the line when you sort of get into contracts after doing those initial procurement works. And again, sort of from our background and what we do, it's focus on sustainability. That the minimum we're doing is SAP A rated, that we're delivering these schemes that are net zero carbon, that we've incorporated all of the different material choices and technologies we can do, such as triple glazed windows, stone wall installation, which again has a classification to fire of A1, that we've got different MVHR and different air source heat pump strategies for the size of units, so that we have a low carbon system that works on things that are below 40 square meters and things that are above 40 square meters and still meet those high SAP ratings and those net zero carbon ratings. And then because they're all electric buildings, that we can look at how we incorporate the solar roofs to offset the residual electrical demand, how we work with the daylight and sunlight analysis to make sure that we're minimizing the passive use of energy, so that when we do have to put active use of energy in, that we've minimalized it as much as possible. And then other bits within the overall sustainability, such as why not future-proof your car park or future-proof the parking facilities for future residents. As the electric car revolution takes more of a hold and takes more gains a greater foothold, we're going to need to have that electrical car parking infrastructure. So let's build it into part of the schemes that we're doing. And also that when we define the shared pedestrian surfaces and how we use permanent and permeable pavers to then feed into our SUDs and put our holistic sustainable development principles into the types of schemes that we do. I'm just going to hover on a little video at the moment. Hopefully the sound is cut off on the video, so we'll just talk over it. And it's going to just focus on how do we deliver and what we think is our ethos as high quality, rapid to build within a factory in a controlled environment, net zero carbon homes for our clients. The scheme that we're looking at is our key worker modular accommodation that we delivered within a very tight timescale and within the budget, within a set design budget at the very beginning, which has knock-on impacts for the client and and helps further down the line. It was the UK's sort of first truly affordable zero carbon modular rapid built development that was done within a 12-week period within a pandemic. That was a turnkey development from design to completion within the framework. And we're really sort of proud of delivering this development, how we built it offsite, how we showed all the benefits of building something offsite to meet such a tight, unmovable deadline, how we interlinked the site works and what we did in the factory, so that we were minimalising the amount of time on site, that we installed all the units basically over a weekend. We started on the Saturday morning to do the bottom units in. We got almost all the units in on the Saturday, a bit of high winds, so we stopped, and then we fit the last units, and all the heavy plant was left on the Sunday by 11 o'clock. We use daylight quite a lot. We use nice finishes. We try and put natural, proper tiling in where we can, so that we're really, when you get into these buildings, you're seeing that they're permanent homes that we've not borrowed from temporary type accommodations, such as park homes, that we're using what you would find in any traditional home to ensure that permanency and that feel and that quality is really, really brought through. And within, even though we're doing sort of standard designs and working on our grid-based model, there's still a lot of flexibility in terms of design and finishes and how we do that. So that we're still giving, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but we could do different things for different clients and in different projects. And I think that really comes through in what we're doing with the Bristol scheme, which you're just seeing on screen as we're installing and lifting in place. And that's then led on to again, for the LHC framework, through what we're doing at Bromley and how we do that and ensure and develop these schemes going forwards. And into sort of how did we overcome those procurement issues that we were facing, and how did we ensure we were ODU compliant and work with LHC and with Swapper to establish the benefits of doing low carbon development and a modular development through the NX2 framework, how we within ourselves internally demonstrate best value in terms of the tenders and the contracts that we do to ensure that we can, even under contract award conditions, we show that we've got best value within the contract itself. How do we work collaboratively both with LHC and with Swapper and with the clients to understand all the different forms of award and how to award projects under the framework, so that all the clients, and again, it's bringing in the clients from legal, from procurement, from all the different parts of the public sector procurement process, so that they all understand how it works, how you could do an expression of interest within the project and within the competitive award procedure, and then a mini tender, but also, which is quite key, how you look at doing direct awards and stuff like how we worked and been awarded projects with a client before, how that could be used within the project call of procedure, and how appointed companies within the framework can demonstrate their quality in their service offerings to enable those works to be awarded. And that sort of leads quite nicely into the types of quality that we're doing and trying to bring through into the market, into the environment. So we've had to go through the BOPAS. We've got 2 different build systems that we use. The BOPAS that we have is both on our steel system and on our cost-eliminated timber system. And it really sort of helps set the benchmark of what's minimum required to show that we can go through those 2 mortgage cycles that the funders want us to do. How that we use an ISO accredited 9001 manufacturing facility. How that we've worked with different structural warranty providers so that we've got that range of provision within our offering, because some of the warranty providers work better for private, some work better for housing associations, some work better for local authorities. And then how we install the design life, the materials that we use, the material sign-offs, to just ensure that everything we do has the design life that's expected by the client. It also has the minimum maintenance, that what we're doing, yes, it's slightly different to traditional build, but it doesn't have any onerous additional complications for the facilities managers or for the estates management department that they have to look after. It's very, very simple what we do and how to maintain it in the future. And by doing that, really get the F&M people on board as well, and show that zero carbon modular is actually, you know, it's almost easier because of the way that we use BIM and the way that models and everything is different suppliers and different components attacked within the models helps that F&M facilities management going forwards. But also with all the work that we've done with fire and with the building safety regulations, how when we need to include stricter systems we've done, but mainly in terms of party wall detail or robust details, and how all of those things we've covered off and we've gone through, and we've worked with building control, local authority and with independent, to show that we are meeting all of those standards and that we can just fit into the existing portfolio and existing portfolio management, and really bringing that normalcy to the innovation and almost making what we do that's quite as boring as possible, so that it's understandable and doesn't seem to be very different or far-stretched to do something different. And we brought all that together. It's sort of quite good to contextualise that in what we're doing with Bristol Housing Festival, Bristol City Council and the YMCA, which was awarded under the South West Procurement Alliance as well for a 100% social rented scheme. So it's currently under construction. We've done quite a lot. And again, we've sort of shown quite a lot of the benefits. So we allowed to have 10 days to put the piled foundation system in, and we actually got it in within 3 days. That we actually allowed 2.5 weeks to put the steelwork in place, and actually the steelwork went in place in 4 days because of everything just fits in terms of the BIM and the manufacturing and design detailing that we've done. And then we got all of the first row of the bottom modules in place within 1 day. We got all of the top rows in place within another day. And then on the 3rd day, we put the 2 two-bed unit, the bookend sites in place. And so essentially, even though we planned quite an aggressive 6 weeks to get all that work done, that work was actually done in less than 2 weeks. And so even with planning in a bit of contingency and delay in there, we can still almost reduce that time by 50% in what we've done. What we did was work with the local authority and work with Bristol Housing Festival and the housing development team to find a suitable site, a suitable car park in this place to deliver a scheme that shows that it was going to be near to all the local shops, that it was going to be near to a local supermarket, that had all the facilities in there within walking distance to the local train station and good bus connections. So that when we're doing something for social housing, it's within all of the amenities that they're going to require. And that enabled us to develop a zero car scheme. So the existing car park we're doing maintains all its car parking spaces. We don't offer any private residential parking spaces, and that we were happy with how we were doing that because of the position of the site and all of the facilities that were in and around it. And there's a lot of early engagement that went on in terms of engaging in the feasibility work to look at how we pushed this through and how we took planning on at our own risk, how we looked at a number of different shortlist sites to show what was the best site to do, how we used and worked with Bristol Housing Festival to demonstrate the type of module and type of building that was going to be in place, how we used all our energy modelling and sustainability credentials to show that we were going to be able to deliver a net zero carbon scheme, and how we used the expo and the show home principles to enable this to sort of really work and get that community engagement and get that buy-in for something that's very different and very innovative very, very early on. Because we've got our own in-house design and architectural approvals facilities, that we could enable to really develop the client brief and work and align the project brief to client brief and what was deliverable with the client, and work on developing and submitting the planning application in tandem and in conjunction with the client, with the local planning officers, and by taking on board all of the feedback that we got from the local residents and the public and the pre-engagement activities that we did. And then this was awarded via impact through the LHC framework to build the Zed Pods scheme, and it's been very, very good, and I think there's a lot of people looking at it, and quite rightly so. And it's going to be a landmark scheme, and it's something we're very, very proud of delivering, and really sort of honed all that earlier work that we did to bring home an actual project and show what we're doing, and making sure that it can be replicable in other sites with other local authorities and other councils, in both in terms of design, in terms of the overall concept, in terms of bringing land that's not in current use for housing into use for housing, in terms of establishing modular as the way to do it. And I think that really sort of helped us deliver that low carbon modular scheme within the local authority. And it's a very, very good case study, and we're proud to be. And as I said, and as Mary said earlier, there's follow-up work that's being done as part of the virtual Bristol Housing Festival again this year. And we'll be sitting and taking questions on a conversation about the scheme and go into more detail about it there. You can sort of see the journey from production facility to how we do the air tightness detailing, to how we install everything in the factory at low level, how we then installed and communicated using the communication boards within the factory and within the site, how we then installed the steelwork very, very quickly, how the modules are then being craned into place. And this is, we've gone from years to months to weeks to days now in terms of offsite construction, and it really shows what can be done and what can be delivered. And hopefully this will be a very good tire kicking scheme for everyone to sort of show how we deliver modular and how we help build social value into the schemes that we do, and how Hope Rise is going to be not just a zero carbon modular scheme, but a zero carbon modular community. And part of the work that the YMCA are doing that, and part of the social value that we've shown, is how we impart the education and training, what we've done and how we've done it, how we work with the local council of local schools and the social value contract that we have with Bristol, and how we work with the YMCA to bring in these community builders, so that the people that are moving in have got a first port of call to come to, and that the community builders are involved in that to sort of say if they've got any problems, if there's any sort of isolation issues and health and well-being issues that perhaps could be sorted almost informally, rather than relying on the established the established infrastructure within the care system, and help relieve some of that burden within the care system. And if we can do that and help instill those upward spirals and help build that community, hopefully we can sort of see greater benefits beyond just housing, but also anchoring it into the types of people that are going to be living in these schemes, and how to improve their quality of life, how to improve the distribution of resources, and how we can sort of lead it to a new way of thinking, a new type of community that we can build within local communities by using what is essentially a modular housing community combined with low carbon design, combined with key providers and key stakeholders to deliver with something that really could be quite special. So just in terms of a summary and what did the local authorities we worked with and the schemes that we do look for in a delivery partner, and how do we sort of manage that? And we offered that full key managed process in terms of engaging with the client to identify what the correct build system was, and sort of showing that we had flexibility, even though we try to get that manufacturing philosophy and that replicability into what we do, but we still allow that flexibility within there to make sure what we've done is fit for purpose, fit for the client, and everybody is on board with what can be delivered. And again, that sort of feeds into that collaborative approach and that engagement that we did, and using the visits within the demo projects that we have and the demo units that we've got. Really heavily relying on our sort of experienced architects and design and planning team to conduct those initial feasibility studies, to really work with the client and show what's possible, to sort of look and suggest different routes of funding and different options that are available to deliver MMC within their budgets and within their pots of money that have allocated, and sort of analyse all the local planning implications to make sure that we minimise that planning risk going forwards in pre-engagement. And make sure everyone's on board and doesn't think this is too different or too radical, that what we're trying to do so that when we get to the planning, we can then get that over the line with as quickly as possible. And again, sort of mainly from our background, but also with what a lot of the clients are asking for, is they want to show there's a lot of climate emergencies being declared within the country, and we need to show that we are part of that solution and that our enhanced eco-credentials align to those broader sustainability targets. And that by delivering affordable homes, we're actually delivering further and more widespread into those wider low carbon and carbon reduction targets within boroughs and the local authorities that we're working with. We also sort of can talk through quite early on the risk mitigation factors that we do, and also instill the fact that, you know, within modular and within low carbon development, you should be looking at life cycle costing and feasibility over the life cycle of the building, rather than just that initial capex fee. And that's been key, working with SWAPA and working with LHC under the NH2 framework to establish all of those things within the Procurement Alliance and within the FAC1 framework agreement, so that everyone within the local council or the local authority can be aware of what we're doing, how to do it, how we're going to plan to deliver these schemes, what the types of contracts are that are available, and that the housing delivery team can then bring in their colleagues from the wider delivery team within the local authority, within the housing association. And then that's led to sort of our track record of projects and how we can utilise those learnings, because there's a lot of learnings to be caught, and there's a lot of intrinsic knowledge that we have that enables us to sort of help bring these processes forward a lot quicker. Initially, when we did this, because it's slightly different how we engaged with Bristol initially, we did the initial design, the demo and the exhibition work, and the public and the stakeholder engagement, and then through the framework and the procurement. And we managed that, but it meant that we didn't bring those additional key stakeholders, such as legal, procurement, in at the beginning, and sort of they didn't have that knowledge of how we communicated differences in doing that. There's slight differences, but differences with such as the payment and investing purposes within a JCT contract. And that was a bit more of a surprise for those. So we then did that work further on. And so it took about 12 months to get in through that contract part, where we then worked with the London Borough of Bromley. We brought that down to 6 months. And we've actually we're bringing that forward much quicker by talking through the initial feasibility stage, the quality and the accreditation focus that we do, how that can then lead to an EOI and a mini tender, but instilling those quality and accreditation points at the beginning to enable us to then move quickly and get grants and awards, so that we can do things like make use of the allocations that have been given by ACLG for the homelessness and the Next Steps programme, and how we can hopefully help councils deliver those schemes that come to quite close when it comes to delivering schemes by 2021, and Modular is going to form a very good, important part of delivering those schemes. And then just establish the quality and sort of managing the design and development process, the feasibility and that planning there, ensuring that they understand that we're doing permanent buildings that are they've got a long lifetime, that are highly durable, and that are warranty backed by a number of different warranty providers, that we've got a verified build system that we use. In fact, we've got two verified processes we do, and that we've got that demonstrable track record, and that we're working with people like the Innovate and with YTKO to deliver the innovation construction scheme that we're working with in terms of a number of different providers. And I think that's going to be quite key for the findings to come out, and the fact that we're keen to push those findings out so that local authorities can understand what we're doing, how we do it, and how we deliver these schemes. And then to sort of, again, because we're doing something differently, because we're doing zero carbon, because we're doing modular, because essentially we're the new guys on the block, that we're getting those extra sort of social value hurdles that perhaps traditional construction hasn't had to do, that they're now sort of pushing over onto modular schemes that we're trying to bring through. We welcome that. It's something that we should be doing, and really instilling the additional social value that we can do, not just in terms of the building design and the accommodation that we're doing, and the low running costs and the low operational costs, but also the fact that we are going to undertake post-occupancy survey and evaluation to show that the residents are happy living in the schemes that we do. That we do that post-project performance in terms of how do we deliver and show that we're reducing the performance gap, to show that what we do is as designed is what is performing as built, and how we establish and prove those sustainability outcomes are being achieved. And then a little bit further, sort of things like, how do you show that we're engaging with user training? How are we working with the F&M team to ensure that they're confident in managing and maintaining everything that we're installing? How that this feeds through from the BIM model into the health and safety file and into the health and safety information. And also further, we're committed to working with the local technical colleges and the local schools to show what a low carbon lifestyle means. How do you address a climate emergency within the really tight timescales and that have been declared within a lot of the local authorities that declare the climate emergency, and how that we provide that education so that when people leave technical colleges, they want to be working in the modular build industry, not traditional. They want to be installing low energy heat pumps and solar panels rather than installing gas boilers, and that essentially when 2025 happens, it removes gas, that we're ready for it. And how do we convince people and they're in that education system? And that's all part of, it's going to help in the future, but it's something that we can do now as part of that social value. And then we get quite a sort of lot of news coverage, and if you wanted to follow us, you can see our website address, our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that we use, and our LinkedIn profiles at the top. And so some of the stuff that we've got coming through in terms of the schemes that we've done in terms of delivering the scheme in Bristol. And so thank you, and hopefully you found that interesting, and that I've covered a lot of what you wanted to hear, and happily hand it over to hopefully take some questions moving forwards now.
Thank you very much, Rehan. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A. Can you see them? Because they're definitely for you, not for me. Can you see the Q&A button? Or shall I read them out to you?
Let's have a look.
Have you got the Q&A there?
Yeah, I've got them up here. Let me just move these up so I can see them. So what's embodied carbon load in the delivery process per dwelling? How do we account for material sourcing, transportation? So originally we were using cross-laminated timber, and we love using cross-laminated timber. It's a great building material to use. It's it's quite a low-grade timber that goes into it, and you get strength through how you laminate and the different panels to make the CLT panels together. And it's quite closely processed in terms of it's FSC approved. They do a lot of planting. A lot of the waste materials get turned into CHP wood to power the factory and to help provide local heating to local villages. And that's really, really good. But we don't make it in the UK yet. And we've tried to convince partners in Scotland and in Wales to try and do it. There's a lot of commitment that goes in, especially into the types of timber that we've got, and we'd like to source it from the UK. But it's again, why we've had to look at different sources and different materials, and why we have a cross-laminated timber solution and a steel build system. The materials we try and source as locally as possible. So all our materials and our stone wool installation comes from either canal or rock wool, both based in the UK and in Wales, that we try and source our local supplying and groundworks teams locally as well. And we have to try and sort of really look into that. And the aim is to try and we're working again as part of the Innovate Fund and part of looking at the embodied carbon within our construction methodologies and technologies, so that when we look at the additional energy that we produce via the PV, is that able to offset the embodied carbon within the building. So essentially, we're not just doing zero operational carbon, but we're also offsetting the embodied carbon and can essentially do almost like a guilt-free net zero building. And if we can do that, I think we're really there. But we're designing the building, so there's nothing really that's laminated that uses, we don't use any PIR, PU or any sandwich paneled materials. It's all natural building materials so that everything is recyclable at the end of use. And we're really working on, especially some of the schemes that we're doing with our Welsh partners, and reducing and using a Welsh supply chain and reducing the amount of transport involved. So that the only transport that, the major transport is the leaving the factory and delivering stuff on site. Again, that's all part of the stuff that we're doing as part of our post-occupancy evaluation and part of what we're doing with Innovate to really demonstrate that. And in terms of the follow-up question, yes, we design the buildings to produce more energy than what they consume over the course of the year. So you have seasonal variations. In winter, you're going to be importing more energy. In summer, you're going to be exporting more energy. But when we produce that energy and it goes back to the grid, it actually goes to the closest source. So you'll see that when we monitor it, all the additional energy that's produced, we can then offset that against the electric car charging points that are underneath. So we can actually do an additional matrix that shows that not only are we generating more energy than what we consume, but that energy is actually being used on site and actually could offset and provide some zero carbon transport miles for the electric vehicles that are being transported in. And again, once we get into the post-occupancy evaluation and once we have those, not just from the model data and the SAP data and the Sphere data that we use, but the actual data that comes in a 12-month review after this has been occupied and we've got the actual data to hand, we can feed that back in, and it's just, I'm hoping it's going to show what we wanted to show, that this has been, this will be able to develop a net zero carbon design that generates more energy than what it's consuming, but also provides those additional benefits in terms of where it feeds the energy to and what else we should be looking at. And then hopefully that can then feed into policy and show, one, if we're doing this in social housing, it should be the standard within the private sector as well. And then we really can sort of start pushing the environmental agenda through and saying, well, look, we've done it on a scheme that's being rented out. Let's pass all its financial hurdles on 30-year margins. That shows that we can deliver a net zero carbon scheme. It's not even LHA rates, but these are social housing rates, the lowest possible housing rates, housing benefit rates, to deliver a high quality zero carbon scheme. And then I think it's people have got to, the bigger builders have got to then sit up and take notice and saying, well, if we're doing this for social, then this should be as a standard in the private. And I think hopefully we've done some of our job.
We've got a couple more minutes left of the session. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm not seeing any come. I think that was I think Rehan gave a really interesting, comprehensive presentation, and as he says, that you can follow up with his website. We have been recording this, so it will be on various YouTube channels as well. And as I said in the chat, we will be distributing the slides to all the people who attended, even people, the modular suppliers who have attended. But it's good, getting the information out there, and there's enough in the market for everybody. So, oops, we have another question quickly. Oh, how much did it cost to build the chalk road dwellings?
I don't actually have the exact figure to hand, but I think the total contract award value was around about 1.5 million.
I think that's what it said on one of the slides earlier. Yeah. Yes. So that's obviously the quote amount. Yes. Okay. So if there's no other questions, then we'll complete. Thank you very much for your attendance. Do have a look at the Bristol Housing Festival online expo and all the bits going on about that, because that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And oops, one more question. Oh, we've just got a thank you from somebody, and we look forward to your interest, and do keep in touch. I don't know whether you want to say something, Rehan. Have you got any?
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been great to sort of talk about our journey and what we're doing and what we're trying to do to move forward, not just for ourselves, but also within the industry.
Yes, I think we all hope that the industry comes stronger and more streamlined as we go on. Okay, I shall log off and stop the meeting, I think, and we'll leave it there.